Hello there. I'm going to be doing another takeover on Abyss 1 here, on an account that I've already visited a few times, but there's been some roster changes this weekend, so we're having at it again. A few of the notable changes are that now we have an Aylin, so we can actually use Diaochan as an Invig booster, an Inspiration booster, and we also have Nerissa. And there are some interesting points to all of this that I'll go into a little bit more after, but for now we're just going to get right in and see where we can go. Slight spoiler alert, we do not have enough damage to breach 35k. But, that being said, I'm going to drop in our Wukong here, Aylin right there, Twyla right there, Diaochan right there, and honestly I should consider buffing, other champs than the physical damage dealers just to see if I could break that magical shield, but since I can't time the ults here, it's highly unlikely. Pop Diaochan, drop in Vorn over here, Kigiri, and that's all of our Nightmare units, so we can drop in our Torodor to buff Vorn. Drop in Nerissa over here. And we have everyone placed. So, we are going to slightly slow it down here. We want to pop Twyla and Wukong ultimates as soon as possible. Same for Kigiri. Open that damage window on the right. Pop a Torodor. Worm's Wrath coming in. And we're going to take some damage. I do wonder, can we just break this without even bothering with the ultimates? Pretty sure if we just use Kigiri's, we can get through that shield. In which case we pop Wukong straight into the vulnerability, doing a whole lot more damage than we would have on the shield. I do wonder if she wouldn't be doing healing, but does it really matter? I'm just going to go ahead and try this. I did actually try this during my testing. Oh, Twyla should be going off now. Actually a little bit late. Drake's Bellow coming in. Pop Aylin. Seismic Slam coming in. Another Drake's Bellow. And a Deluge coming in hot. And pop Kigiri ultimate. He'll survive that. And we use our Init. And as soon as we can here, we use as well our Nerissa. So she does some damage. Now, she doesn't do a lot of damage, but she does do damage. And honestly, we're at a point where every little bit matters, so it's free blood, is the way I see it. Pop both Wukong and Kigiri as soon as the dragon is being promoted pops up on the screen there. Aylin as soon as the Drake's Bellow is off. And hold Wukong, Twyla, and Kigiri ultimates for the shield that is coming up. Twyla now, Wukong, Kigiri. and absolutely destroy the shield. And we're kind of just relying on Twyla ultimate to get to the end of it, because sadly we don't have a Kigiri A3. Now I know I'm not going to break the shield, so I am going to start using some of these ultimates now, so that Init and Nerissa are doing more damage, and not just sitting there wasting their ultimates on a shield that will not fall. This is a slam coming in. We want to be using our Twyla ultimate, even if it ultimately does nothing, just because, you know, if we were clearing this phase, we would want her ultimate to be up in time for the next shield, and we'd also want to build up her stacks of ultimate, where she gets more ignore death each time she casts her ultimate. Here, we're running into the shield, and it's hard to control the ultimates of Vorn and Nastya, so sadly we're basically kinda SOL. But I do want to point out that we still have a Nerissa that's doing, you know, it's not great damage, but that is, you know, not an insignificant amount. We do have her at about 10 million, which could actually be, you know, the difference between a shield or not for some people. It doesn't really change much for us. But it is an interesting point of her kit that I see most people building her with Invig and Wings of Grace, which probably makes a lot of sense when you can build a full magic team. So, you know, in this case, when you have really an A5, A3 Kigiri and A5 Wukong, you can afford to do that, because you only really need two physical damage dealing units, and you can drop in a Numera. Now, we can't do that. As such, and, you know, limited awakenings on the Ezo crowd, as such, you know, having that extra damage here is really not insignificant. So, we're just going to double check the builds here real quick and go over the damage. Obviously, Wukong is way at the top, Vorn is right behind. We could probably get a decent boost on Nastya. I'd have to do some comparisons just to see if Nastya would benefit, well, if our setup would benefit more from having Invig on Nastya or from what we're doing currently. So like basically an 8 million difference in fragments. I don't know if just having that invigoration would change that, but maybe it would. I haven't actually run the full test for that. I probably will after this video, and I'll do a recap when I actually do a big overview of Nerissa here. All this to say that the way we ran it was with Nastya in Wicked Vengeance, Soulbound Arcana, Vorn, same concept. Init with Calamity and Soulbound Arcana, because that's the gear we have. And we ran Nerissa in a somewhat damage-focused build. Infernal Roar does work on her ultimate, so it is buffing that damage. Warlord and a Golden Scarab. Aylin is running Light's Grace and Invigoration with Atia's Balm. Torodor is running Watchguard's Unity, Astral Guardian, and Wings of Grace. Wukong is running Wicked Vengeance, Soulbound Arcana, and his exclusive. Kigiri is running Warlord, Soulbound Arcana, and his exclusive. Twyla is running a Shattered Hilt, Wicked Vengeance, Soulbound Arcana, and finally Diaochan is running Warlord, Invigoration, and her exclusive. Really our limiting factor here is the magic damage that we can afford to push out. There is a very good chance that with just a Kigiri A3 we could drop the Twyla, swap some stuff around, and hopefully, you know, end up with just, you know, if we drop the Twyla, we can put in a Numera. That would allow us to normally break that shield. Normally, it would also allow us to break the previous physical shield, so we would probably break the 35k barrier. But we probably couldn't go much higher just because of Awakenings and gear. To manage to get to the 60k limit, like, if you check some of the gear here, it's pretty fucking cracked. And the common theme between all of these tends to be A5 Wukong and A5 Kigiri. At the very least, you probably will not see a less than A3 Kigiri anywhere in the top probably 100. Probably. And I'll go a little bit more over specifically Nerissa in a different video, but she is somewhat interesting. I don't know if I would highly recommend pulling for her, unless you can go for the A1, but again, I'm getting sidetracked. That's not the purpose of this. This was just a takeover for Abyss 1, and we finally locked in a more than comfortable 25k plus. So cheers, and you have a nice one.